which is probably the best definition of my spirituality today. And I've decided to put these down on video because I think it's important that the important things that we encounter in life are shared. It may go nowhere, probably, but I think that each individual's experiences, well, I mean, it's the most precious thing that we have in life is our experience. And for me, it's been what I would call a departure. As all spirituality is a departure or an exodus from existing in one state to another state. In my first state, my primary state was being raised in the church and having all the associations with, our Western value system, interpreting the Bible and Jesus and Christianity. And, the first thing I want to say is that that's my heritage, and it will always be. That will always be my heritage as a human being, that will always be the thing that is at the foundation of my belief. In other words, when I close my eyes to have any kind of conscious contact with God or prayer, the vision is of God, the Father in heaven, Jesus arbitrating and communicating on my behalf. That's kind of spot welded in my mind. It's in there, and I accept that, and I don't argue with that. But on the same token, I've had to expand my horizons, expand my my understanding about God, about spirituality, and no matter what we're raised with, what heritage is handed down to us, we all ultimately have to come to our own conclusions through our own experiences, or lack of experiences. And that's where I'm at today, is in meditation and allowing God or Spirit to be what it is, without anyone's interpretation or anyone's previous ideas or dogma. And that is primarily, to me, the difference between religion and spirituality. And I suppose I want to say, there's nothing wrong with spirituality. Many find fulfillment in their life and happiness and purpose, and great. That's great. On my own behalf, that vehicle broke down, and it broke down early on for me. It broke down because it wasn't able to convey the spontaneity of spirit. To me, that's the whole idea of what spirit is. And there's a place in the Bible where Jesus talked about being born again, being like the wind, blowing where it wants to go. It just does. Spirit does what it wants to do. If there's one thing we can say about life, life is doing what it wants to do to you. Life is doing to me what it wants to do to me. And, we see that through all the experiences that we have. But I do believe that in the core there's the potential to take all of the experiences that we have and still experience a serenity, a clarity in the stillness and in the silence. And that is always there. That is always present and always available. It's us, for various reasons, that refuse to go to that place and allow spirit to be what spirit is. So for me, it was a departure, and I would encourage everyone to embrace their departure from maybe their parents' religion or the church or whatever tradition was given to them. I challenge everyone to find their own path, their own way. And it very well will include the path of others incorporated in our path. It's not a complete disregard for all other experiences or all other faiths or anything like that. It winds up being kind of that old adage I heard years ago: take what you need and leave the rest. Take what works for you, what is helpful. Ultimately, what happened for me. I want to say what happened to me, but I feel more that it's what happened for me, was that the test of truth, I had to really, really take a look at the teachings that I was handed. I had to take a look at the dogma of the church. I had to look at some of the things that I had just assumed were true because the majority of people around me in the church and in my environment were accepting them and saying I had to accept them. And there just seemed to be other possibilities for what was true. So I had to experience a departure. And it's interesting, too, because my mom, who's now suffering from Alzheimer's, has her identity was caught up in what she did when she left the Catholic Church and went to a Protestant church. And that, for her, was her exodus. That was her experience, for various reasons. And it's interesting today because I see the good that the Catholic Church has managed to have inside of it. I see its consistencies and doctrine and such, and the millions that find joy in their practice. Obviously, I'm not Catholic and could not adhere to that system in this point of my spirituality, but I definitely allow people to live and let live, to find their path, and that's been very important. That's been vital. But my mom left the Catholic Church for various reasons, various things that she saw that didn't line up with her truth. Her internal truth, her internal barometer, if you will. The Catholic Church and its customs and traditions did not line up with her internal feelings about life and truth, and she discovered the Bible and wound up going to a non-denominational Protestant church, which is where I was raised. But interestingly enough, the same thing happened. That as I grew up, and it's hard for me to imagine, a person that's a truth seeker that has inside of them the curiosity, of what makes things work, from taking apart the toaster to, taking apart the lawnmower, or whatever happens in life. You just want to know how things tick. And for some people, they dive into the financial industry and figure out how finance is done, and some people are CPAs and dissect numbers, and other people and then some don't show any interest at all. They're just happy to do the status quo. But I was always curious, and I always wanted to know who the man was behind the curtain. And I still demand to know who is pushing the buttons, if there are any buttons to be pushed, and all of that. And I accept that about myself. And if you've managed to watch this as long as you have, you're probably that type of person too that wants to know the truth behind the machine, the ghost in the machine, the truth behind the stuff. And you don't have to look far in this world to see the amount of overwhelming bullshit that makes the world what it is. And and once again, for me, spirituality is not really to occupy myself with the lies and deception that is out there, but to take a look at the lies and the deceptions that are in the most important habitation that I know of, right here. And that's been the spiritual journey.